Good evening, everyone. On behalf of FIDR, I, Aishwarya Pandey, Knowledge Lead FIDR, welcome you all to another edition of Think Hatchery Talk series. FIDR is India's leading think tank. Today's talk is on Odisha Budget 2023. We are very happy and honored to have Hon'ble Member of Parliament, Shri Amar Patnaik, sir, as our speaker. He's a former Principal Accountant General of Sikkim, Odisha, West Bengal, and Kerala. He opted for voluntary retirement 9 years before completion of his service and joined politics on 29th August 2018. Since then, he is the member of the parliament representing Odisha in the Rajya Sabha. He heads the IT wing and is the national spokesperson of Biju Janata Dal. Now, I would request Shri Charudatta Panigrahi sir, author, to introduce the topic to all of us. And also today's session will be moderated by Shri Charudatta Panigrahi sir. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Aishwarya. Thank you so much. Welcome, sir. Welcome to this edition of our talk series. And we hold this quite regularly. FIDR is quite keen on taking these narratives to as many people as possible and as simplified as possible. And thank you for your consent and for agreeing to be the speaker today. We really appreciate that. Despite your busy schedule, you could find time for this. As we think that this will be very important because people from the diaspora from all across are here today in this meeting and more are scheduled to join. In fact, we have people from different continents. So we have people from Africa, from Berlin, from US, UK. So despite the time zones and the time differences, they're all here. And we have also people from various sectors, various areas and vocations. We have actors, we have entrepreneurs, we have IT specialists, we have creative people, people involved in fine arts. So the whole idea is to have a gist of what we would expect in the forthcoming budget of Odisha, and what would be the outlay and how we have performed, because as we all know that post-COVID, Odisha has been stabilizing its economy with commendable performances, all-round performances, and the growth rate is almost more than 6%, more than 6.5% so far. And this will be probably the last budget before 2024 elections. And also this budget is important because this will be placed after the central budget, national budget. So there'll be room for a better understanding, better allocation, and better knowledge about the central share. And also there are a couple of thoughts in terms of the climate budgeting that Odisha has pioneered, the SDG budgeting that Odisha has pioneered, and how all of these are connected to different departments, different verticals, and how the linkages between the verticals will bring about the all-round growth and all-round change. So we would look forward to your talk in a specific context of getting to know what would be our future in terms of our outlays, in terms of our social welfare performances, in terms of how our education sectors would do, health, because these are all connected to SDGs, and particularly SDG 4, 10. These are all very crucial, and also will help in reducing the inequalities, because that's what Odisha has done tremendously well over the years. And over to you, sir, and we'll be happy to have a question answer session after your deliberation. And thank you so much, and over to you, sir.
Thank you so much, Charu. Thank you so much to Aishwarya for introducing me. And thank you to all the ladies and gentlemen who are present here. I'm sure all of you would like to see a progressive Odisha, an Odisha which doesn't remain as a part of the Bimaru state, but becomes one of the most progressive states in India. Therefore, I am happy to be here amongst people who want Odisha to occupy its place of preeminence in the Indian Committee of States. So I would start by invoking Jagannath, Jai Jagannath to all of you. All of us are bound together cross-culturally and cross caste-wise or whatever, geographically, region-wise, by the Lord Mahaprabhu, who has historically given an identity to all of us, to Oriya people, to the state. Having given that identity, and when we turn to him to take care of poverty, to take care of economic distress, to take care of our health, to take care of education, we would obviously want that all these factors are taken care of by a government, whichever government it may be, and the governance addresses these issues because we are in the land of Lord Jagannath. Over the few years that I have been as a member of the parliament, I have seen that several indicators are used to measure poverty. Several indicators, often disputed, are used by international bodies and national NGOs to rank India in terms of its position, economic, wealth-wise, hunger-wise, inequality-wise, in the entire Committee of Nations. Since I was a principal accountant general whose job was to evaluate the government's budget and its subsequent implementation in terms of spendings and produce a report to be laid in the parliament, I have had the experience of looking at many of these indices. And as we know, many of these indices which are formulated globally have been disputed by not just by Government of India, but also by many countries because of the size of the sample, because of the methodology that is followed, because of the way the data is collected. So I have now of late chosen to pick up one index which is not disputed by the Government of India and also not by the states. And that is the multidimensional poverty index. I would now henceforth, I have realized that this is one index which is not disputed by the Government of India, though it was formulated by the UNDP and the Oxford Poverty and Human Development Institute. We have our own national multidimensional poverty index. The baseline study was done. The future reports would indicate how much we have progressed in terms of giving, in terms of uplift, in terms of improving the conditions of the life of our people. What is unique in the national multidimensional poverty index is the fact that it breaks down this poverty into subnational level, that is the state-wise figures are available, and also subnational, subnational, which is what means the district-wise figures are also available. This is the most important thing, that we can be in the common denominator of taking this figure because no one is contesting it. So I will use this figure to understand how Odisha has done, what has been the trajectory. I would not like to speak much about the Government of India thing because that's not the topic of today's discussion. But of course, I would refer to some of those figures from time to time. But I would take how Odisha has progressed. This also takes care of the problem that you had of the poverty line, the Tendulkar's figures, someone saying it is too low, someone saying it is too big. So, but now this national multidimensional poverty index has come to be accepted as a good indicator. Why this is important compared to the GDP or the GSTP for a state, because this particular poverty index not only looks at monetary poverty, that is the how much income has increased, how much wealth has increased, but it also looks at education, it looks at basic infrastructure services. So there are three dimensions it covers. The three dimensions are monetary poverty and educational level, basic infrastructure services. Within that, there are 10 indicators. And these 10 indicators cover not just how living standards of people have improved, it also includes aspects relating to health, relating to education. Why this is important? Because it indirectly addresses a significant question that Charu spoke about, which is inequality. And here I would like to, this is what I love about Professor, when he says that there are three existential crises that humankind are going to face, are facing now, are inequality, climate crisis, and democracy. Democracy means institutions. If you do not have institutions, then you can't deliver anything. So these are the three. And he says these are existential crises. So he says that please move away from GDP. You talk about these three indicators. And that is the beauty of this multidimensional poverty index, because it encapsulates and includes many of these indicators, because it takes care of health, it takes care of education. So inequality, inclusiveness of growth would be addressed. It takes care of livelihood and household environment. So it, in a way, addresses environment concerns, of course, not to the extent that we have to talk about it separately. And it talks about and it talks about these institutions. Institutions are all pervading, because unless you have those institutions, you can't deliver. Now, this being the background, I choose MDPI for analysis of Odisha's budget or India's budget. Let me say that while talking about living standards, it talks about sanitation, talks about drinking water, electricity, housing, assets of households. So it's really all-encompassing. And when I was making a mapping with the SDG goals, for example, health, SDG 2 and 3 is covered in the multidimensional poverty index. Education, SDG 4 covered under MDPI. Living standards is SDG 1, 6, 7, 11, some of which I will refer to, is again covered under MDPI. So I think it will be beginning to start with MDPI. And here I say that Odisha, over a period of time, has done exceedingly well. Poverty level of 63%. Now the MDPI report of 2022, the last one, the 23 will be due in October. It says that Odisha's MDP, the multidimensional poverty index, is a figure which is 29.33%. So a reduction to the extent of about, from 63 to 29.33, 31%. Some figures released earlier by the National Statistical Survey and other agencies have pegged it at 24% or something. Come what may, the poverty levels of Odisha have reduced substantially. And there is an estimate that about 80 lakh people have been yanked out of poverty to a level which is above the poverty level. Is it sufficient? Obviously, because we are at the 9th from bottom. The bottom state in terms of multidimensional poverty index is Bihar, which is 51.9%. Then there is Jharkhand, then there is UP, then there is MP, then there is Meghalaya, Chhattisgarh, then Rajasthan, and then comes Odisha. Kerala is the lowest at 0.71%. We have to aspire to be somewhere there. Now, whether we are going in that direction, yes, of course, because the reduction itself indicates that we are going in the right direction. Whether it is sufficient and adequate, we can always debate. But whether this reduction of poverty that is taking place is taking care of the inclusiveness part, that is whether the investment in health, primary health, investment in education, primary education, investment in improving the living standards of people in domestic households at the village and rural level, whether it is happening or not. Yes, it is happening because it is already covered under the MDP index. The figures are likely to improve much more because this is based on the parameters or on the survey, which was the family health survey, which was around 5. The last one was 2015-16. Now, if you do it later with the latest one, I think Odisha's position would have still improved much more. Now, if you come down to rural-urban, you see that the rural poverty, even though Odisha has reduced it to about 29.33%, the rural one is still at 46.45%, which basically means that we have to do a lot more. I'll give you some figures again. Multidimensional poverty index of Nabarangpur is 59.32%. Malkangiri is more than 50%. Rayagada is 48.1%. Kalahandi is 47.2%. So the point here is that the development of Odisha in terms of all indicators is happening. The trajectory is same. The budget, which basically indicates the priorities of the government, are right. But I think we need to do much more for these particular, and they are Nabarangpur, Malkangiri, Rayagada, Kalahandi, and all. Now, are we doing enough? So what I can think of is, let us look at the WODC, the Western Odisha Development Council. There has been a thrust in this. The idea was only to address these issues because these were the areas which were lagging behind. The government of India is doing the aspirational districts program. Most of these districts are these districts. Unfortunately, the aspirational districts program doesn't give any financial resources. It only gives, it only encourages convergence of various schemes so that better outcomes are there and you can see and monitor those outcomes. So the state will have to do, the state budget will have to do from out of its own resources. And this is what has happened. The Malkangiri, let us say the area which was called as Uriame, the one which was not connected to the mainland because of the bridge, which was called the Guptiya Bridge, which was now constructed for about some 37 years. That was completed in 2018. So the interventions which are required for improvement in these areas are happening. The mobile health camps, the mobile health units. This is an innovation to take health to those people who are not getting health from the system that we have developed. When the Biju Expressway was constructed, giving a lifeline from Sundar to Malkangiri, it has actually been a lifeline of business, lifeline of entrepreneurship, lifeline of livelihood for these people. When there is an Indravati Canal, then I think it becomes an area which was known or which was deprecated everywhere as poor, as people not having enough food to eat, and they were forced to eat probably a mango kernel or whatever, is now the rice bowl of India. So I think the changes are happening. You could debate by saying that changes should have happened faster. I foresee, this is what is happening. Charu spoke about many new things that about the nutrition, separate nutrition, which is a very unique thing because nutrition budget takes care of issues relating to not only child mortality, but stunting and malnutrition. This is one area where we are weak. And so the multidimensional poverty index captures this. The current intervention of the government of Odisha in this direction, let's say the Mamata scheme, which we introduced for that has been replicated by the Prime Minister Matru-Vandana Yojana of India level. So I think the trajectory of Odisha's growth will get reflected in this budget 23 once again, with emphasis on social sector spending. Our social sector spending as a percentage of the state GHDP is better than national average. It is not just that the overall growth is better than the national average. Even our social sector spending as a percentage of the GHDP or as a percentage of the total budgetary allocation is much more. So I think that particular process will continue under the guidance of our Chief Minister Amar Patnaik, simply because of the fact that he values this particular aspect, that people in rural areas, people who are, mind you, our SC/ST population is about 40%. So these have to be developed. So we have the Odisha Adarsh Vidyalayas now. There are so many of them. We have the SC/ST scholarships and SC/ST hostels, 6,700 of them, which is like almost in every GP, where people can come and stay. The students can come and stay, come and eat all for free for education. So I think the interventions direction is right. We are going to take that direction. What has helped us to do is because of our better management of financial resources. So I'll come here to some of those figures. If you know that we have these, we have the two basic sources of resources, which is the tax resources and the non-tax resources. The tax resources are very limited for most of the states. We are doing quite well, as probably as many other states, but and the devolution of course. The non-tax resources is one area where for the first time we have got it right by auctioning the mines, both those which had expired and those were virgin, and those resources, which is helping us to actually concentrate in all these efforts to make this development process inclusive and develop the western and the southern part of the state, yank them out of the poverty levels at which they are currently in by improving agriculture, health, education. In most of we have the medical college coming up in Koraput. We have 9 medical colleges coming up in the districts. So, and these resources, if they continue to flow in this particular direction, then we will not be dependent much on the government of India, which has always had this, I think every government, irrespective of the party at the center, which always tries to centralize the resources by way of cess and surcharge. The cess and surcharge of government of India has increased 10 times, which basically goes to the consolidated fund of the center. And the result is that the divisible pool of resources by way of taxes which would have come to the states decreases by that extent. So what you see in the Finance Commission, that 41% of the resources are supposed to be devolved, it doesn't say how the divisible pool will be calculated. So the divisible pool has consistently reduced. So the states actually, not 41%, do not get 41%, but only about 30%. So to that extent, Odisha also gets much less. But thanks to our non-tax revenue management, and we were the first state who went for auction of mines. We were the first state, we did it very transparently. So, and for a state government and coming from Odisha, using technology to do it. And, we are all talking about the 5T framework. What is 5T framework? It is the transparency, which is what Naveen Patnaik is known for. And then we're using technology in a massive scale, which is another T, and the teamwork. And then we have the timeline. So the project delay that used to happen because of time overruns, resulting in cost overruns. Now this is what has been addressed by using this framework across all departments. Otherwise, you wouldn't have seen a Birsa Munda Stadium in 15 months, the size of it. So we are going in the right direction. Then there is the question of unemployment. People talk about jobs. Odisha has become an education hub over a period of time, not just because of government's intervention, also because of the private sector, because of the environment that we provide to them. They are coming and setting up institutes over there. Now, once they, so the best of educational facilities are currently available here, not the time when I or Charu probably went to outside the state to study. I went there for my graduation there and for preparation of civil services. Now you get everything out here. But then I think the mindset of Oriya people or our youngsters, which we had earlier, that if we are a good student, if you are doing well, then you are looking for a job in the government. Now that shift which has taken place in the South, that shift which has taken place in the Silicon Valleys of Bangalore or many Bombay, Chennai, I think that change is slowly happening. I'm not saying it is not happening. It is happening, and the Skill in Odisha initiative has actually helped them to reskill them, to give enough skills, to brand them. For example, our plumbers are known all over, and putting skill on the same pedestal as a technical degree of a B.Tech. Now, these are very new things, take some time to sink in, but this change is happening, and the budget reflects that particular change by, putting more money for, we keep on changing the policies, our startup policy, our industrial policy. I talk to many states, as in parliamentary councils. I talk to the members of parliament. I can tell you, I'm going beyond politics to tell you that Odisha's identity currently is well established. People now do not look up to Odiyas as some people who are coming from some backup beyond region and coming to either study here or to occupy a place here. What is now happening is that they are the ones who are extremely aspirational. At the same time, they're not aggressive. They are very nice people. They are the ones who wants to study. They are very sincere. So I think if the correct, this is what the budget has achieved over a period of, since our government has been there for 20 years. This is what is, I think, singularly the most important achievement, taking everything together, that Oriya people now, with their education and the skill levels and the living standards having improved, the per capita income of Oriyas now is rising at a rate, is less than the national average, but rising faster than the national average, in which case we'll reach there much more. So so once these opportunities are given, I don't really agree that opportunities should only be created within Odisha. If that was the thing, then Indians would not be going abroad to US and Canada and other places of the world. If you are bright, if your education level has given you the kind of heft that is required to occupy top positions outside the state, you must go and grab it. And that is what I think people outside are now looking at Oriyas. If you look at positions of Oriyas in the government or in the private sector, within the country itself, it has improved substantially. Whenever I go outside, talk to diaspora outside the country or outside the state, whenever I go, I'm so happy to see people occupying. Someone telling me the other day that the entire plumbing work, entire laying out of pipes of the airport was done by an Oriya from Kendrapad. So I think these are the things we have to celebrate as well. And we are doing it now. Currently, we are slowly shifting to that stage in which we are proud of what we have achieved. We are proud of moving in that direction. I think we feel so happy when people say that you are the global leader in disaster management, aren't we? We are. We have to talk about it. Odisha, we as a race have never been exhibitionist, which is good actually. But I think exhibitionist, non-exhibitionism doesn't really mean that you have the diffidence or you do not have the confidence to face the others in the world. And this is what we have achieved. The budget which we are designing are creating these opportunities. And how this is happening? By investing in health, investing in primary education, investing in secondary, tertiary healthcare as well, investing in sports. Now, why sports is important? People might say that, why are you promoting sports? If hockey is the national sports, nobody gave a recognition to it the way Odisha has done it. Now, this is not just to build identity, but also to provide an opportunity to the people of tribe. As I said, 40% of our people are from scheduled tribe areas. So if we are not giving that opportunity through our budgetary process, then we are doing a disservice to them. So I think the identification of the areas where the emphasis should be there in the budget has consistently been done. I expect 2023 budget to go in the similar direction. I expect this to be actually be increased manifold. I also expect, which I forgot to mention, is that the government of India's accent on capital expenditure has been found in the last 3-4 budgets. But if you look at Odisha's budget right from the beginning, since I think about after the initial period of when Odisha really had to borrow money and ways and means advances had to be taken. So since 2004-05, the financial management and auction mines happened much later, but the financial management has been such that the capital expenditure in Odisha is still much more compared to many other states as a percentage of the total expenditure. So this realization that capital expenditure would actually galvanize growth could actually be, it will create this virtuous cycle of other investments happening and people getting, and therefore creating jobs, has also happened much before Government of India realized. Once again, I know many of you would have this question: if everything is good, then what are we waiting for? As I said, we still have our per capita is not nowhere near the national average. We have already reached the level of, our infant mortality rate has come down. Maternal mortality rate has come down from 104 to I think 60. Infant mortality from 96 to 36. But we are just about the national average. But we still have to do more. Our Chief Minister Naveen Patnaik has announced in the last meeting of the Niti Aayog that he wants to see poverty come down, this multidimensional poverty come down to the level of 10%. Now that would be the first state in India in that case. So if we take this trajectory, I think we will really reach there. What are the points of concern? I think I would love to see my budget invest much more in the Mission Shakti, because female labor force participation has been a bottleneck in India compared to the countries surrounding India like Bangladesh and Pakistan. We are even lower. Sri Lanka, we are lower. So I don't know what the Government of India is going to do, but I'm sure that if we follow the mission, because getting a formal job by skilling them was taking time. So the method that has been followed in Mission Shakti by organizing them into self-help groups and giving them the necessary skill and training and capital through a revolving fund where they don't have to go to bank all the time, and incentivizing them to participate in the development process, whether metering and even COVID, they participated. So this method, I think, should be taken even further. There are some, I think 5 or 6 SHGs from each district should now be groomed to become, depending on the stage in which they are there, medium enterprises, small and medium enterprises. And then it will slowly snowball and it will go into the other SHGs over there. So this should be I think this should be one thrust area which our government will probably take note of, because this is what we realize is the way, safest and the best way of getting women into the labor force. And once women come into the labor force with their skills, one is the skills in many of the formal sectors. The other one is which we call as traditionally informal sectors like garments, like people's work, like craft, like I think they may have been traditionally called as informal, but they are the source of great revenues for the state, identity for the state, and getting women into the labor force, because mostly it is women. 56% of women are engaged in crafts and weaving in India. So it is more so in Odisha. So that particular path has also being taken. The weavers, the workshed. There is a scheme which has been introduced to upgrade it from the earthwork to a cement kind of a thing, so that when during the rains water doesn't get in over there. The Government of India, some of the schemes are being leveraged, and separate state funding is being given. The Flipkart has been introduced to our products are being now taken to Flipkart to reduce the level of intermediation. This was not there before, because I was a bureaucrat myself. I was in the cooperative sector myself. I had seen the weaver cooperative societies, the dying weaver cooperative societies, the dying trade. Now there is a resurgence. Again, the question is whether it is adequate. Of course not. We have to do much more. And the budget will probably give a direction to capture this labor force into the growth process, in which case our growth will become multiplied. So I think overall, I see that budget 2020, and we had the nutrition budget, we had the climate budget, we had the we have the, for the first time we prepared a the date paper. This is another thing which I must say, people keep on talking about debt and all that. No one knows this much better than I, because I have been all along in 28 years in the CAG. We used to look at the debt stock, debt to GDP ratio, the traditional indicator of how efficient or how tolerable is your debt, whether you can service debt, whether you will get into a debt trap. Now, the FRBM Act says that it should be somewhere in the region of 20% and 25%. We are currently, I think, till the last, June 22, we were, I think, at about 13.16%. And during my time when I was Accountant General of Odisha for 4 years, I prepared this report. It never exceeded. In fact, we had revenue surplus. Even now, we fiscal surplus for 2 years, which was unheard of. And last 2 years, we have not gone to the, we have not borrowed at all. 365. There was a time in 99 when we had to borrow every day. And now we have not, for the entire year, not borrowed anything. And this is what the finance minister says. Anytime we keep demanding for more resources, he says, you are already well off. You have not even borrowed money, whereas other states are borrowing money. 63% is a date stock in Rajasthan. Government of India itself is about 90. And if you take the last year's, then it is about 56 or 57. So, the question again happens, people say, what is the per capita? Now, I was looking at the per capita debt burden of ODIs compared to Indians. So in the last 10 years, the debt burden of Indians at the national level has doubled. Whereas Odisha, it has, much less tapered growth. This slope is much less. I could give you the figures, the table. I'll probably tweet it someday. I just finished that analysis yesterday. So so this path of growing in an inclusive manner, keeping track of environment, climate, very important for us, simply because we are a coastal state. If there is global warming, some of the cities in the coast probably go down. Therefore, our CM says that I don't want short-term largesse to be given to us. Give me disaster-resilient infrastructure, the surge walls, and underground cabling of our infrastructure. Now, these are very innovative ideas. And I think this is, I told in Parliament that this is what should be done in every coast, because Mumbai will go down if we don't change the way our emissions are taking place. So keeping a growth which is cognizant of this, growth which is cognizant of climate, and a growth which is cognizant of women's emancipation, gender equality, bringing them into the labor force. I think this is the heady mix. This is really good if we can take it forward. And I have a great feeling that this is the combination that will move forward. We will be, wherever there will be extra, as I said, Nabarangpur, Malkangiri, wherever there will be, there is a requirement for targeted budget intervention, that would also be made. With these, with these words, I'll finish my presentation or finish my thought on the budget 23. Of course, one doesn't know what will be the final budget of Odisha would look like. It will all depend also on the allocations that will come from the divisible pool and estimate, which will be reflected on the 1st February budget. I expect this allocation to remain almost at the same level as last year, simply because of the fact that our the nominal GDP is being estimated to be reduced to about 11% because of the global recession. But our GST collection has 10 months has been around 1.5 lakh crores. So I think the divisible pool may not increase, but will probably remain at the same level. So if it remains at the same level, then our own resources will what will Odisha's economy as it is doing now. And it is doing well because our gross non-tax revenue has increased by about 242%. That is the mines collection from auction of mines, royalty and all. So I think this will be the broad outcome. Our spending on social sector would increase because, as I said, our government, Naveen Patnaik, our chief minister's commitment, thought is always about these two aspects, about the poor people, that is people who are below the poverty line, and environment. So these two aspects will continue to be occupying attention in the budget 2023 for Odisha.
Thank you so much, Dr. Patnaik. I'll also take this opportunity to say this very loudly and clearly, and it won't be an exaggeration to say that because of leadership of your caliber, we probably have given that kind of, the semblance and the actual stability to governance, which is which has resulted in this kind of stupendous economic growth and stabilization. And that's also another factor. So we have thinkers, we have doers, and then this mix of thinking and doing is something which has given us unprecedented success in everything. And thank you so much, because you have made the arcane budget, something which is so complicated, full of jargons, and simplified that and told us that, look, GDP is fine. GDP is one of the measures, but it's not comprehensive. It doesn't include everything. And so, fluidly and beautifully, you have incorporated life cycle, actually, the way we live our lives, what is sustainable livelihoods, how do we mainstream climate change, mainstream development, mainstream women entrepreneurship, Mission Shakti to the forefront, and involving everybody in economic action. And that actually brings our social life to a different level altogether. And thank you so much for this. And not surprisingly, we have many hands out there and many thoughts, questions from different people. So first, I would ask Ashutosh to ask his question. Ashutosh is an Odia entrepreneur from Berlin, and he has something to tell you and ask you. I don't know whether it's a question or a suggestion. And Ashutosh, yes. Could you please unmute your button? That's, yeah.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Ashutosh. I'm currently in Berlin. My first question of Odisha was currently, according to the budget, was I was going through everything and I saw this World Cup games and some events going on in Odisha. So are these events going to increase investments in the state? And if it is going to give investment in the state, and which part of the Odisha is going to benefit out of that? Like Rourkela is going through this World Cup event, hockey event. Bhubaneswar has currently going through some book fair event. And I basically grew up in Sunabeda, which is a part of Koraput. So in that particular part, how much development will be done in the future, and how much investment are these events helping to grow investments in the state?
Okay, so you see the why the hockey stadium in Sundargarh? The answer is obvious, because Sundargarh is the cradle of hockey in India, not just Odisha. So we have not only given the stadium there for hosting the World Cup hockey, we have now given AstroTurf in all the 17 blocks of Sundargarh. Why? Because it is the cradle. The boys, the hockey comes naturally to them. Now, once we establish this infrastructure, I foresee a situation in which it will become a center of excellence for hockey, just like a national, of the SAI, Sports Authority of India, National Centers of Excellence. I foresee that this will become a hub, in which case people from across the the Jharkhand and the Bastar belt, where also hockey, the tribals play hockey, which comes naturally to them. It will become a center, and once it becomes a center, then activities will happen throughout the investments will come. It is not just the direct investment. It is also important to realize that it boosts the confidence of those people. Some of them might go into sports medicine, hockey medicine. Someone might go into developing, let us say, once it becomes an engine of growth and activities take place all the time, then someone will go do setting up clinics for sports medicine. Someone will go and do research in hockey. So the investment will happen in that particular area. Now, we cannot have a hockey stadium in Koraput because people don't play over there. But what is happening now in that area is that under the UDAN scheme, so now we are under the UDAN scheme, which is a central scheme, we must realize that a viability gap funding is provided by the state government. Otherwise, there will be no player coming in. So Jaipur Airport and on that side, Kalahandi Airport are soon, I think in a few months, will become operational. Why this has happened in Rourkela and Sundargarh is because of the Jharsuguda airport coming in. So people, and we could host players from Delhi could come directly to Jharsuguda. Investors are coming in, let's say, all these mining, people, they are coming over there. So this particular cycle will require one particular large it is a question of connectivity. It's a question of providing connectivity and also capital infrastructure. Only capital infrastructure, you build a stadium, but if there was no airport, then it would not have actually worked. So for the South, the airports that we are developing in Jaipur, in Koraput, in Kalahandi, in Bhawanipatna, and also this is happening in Mayurvanch over there. Now, these ones will connect the hitherto unconnected and underserved regions of the state. Once that happens, new avenues of investment will automatically come in. The new avenues of investment need not necessarily come only from the public sector by government. It can only enable it. But the basic ingredients required are being developed. One of those ingredients is this is the connectivity. Another ingredient would be to increase the connectivity, that is internet connectivity, the tele-density in this particular area. So we keep on taking it up with the government of India because that's a work which is to be done by the central government. But at our level, you can now go and see that our roads under the Prime Minister's GSY, PM GSY, right from the beginning, or under the state government's own, cemented roads in every village, has really improved this connectivity to a large extent. Earlier, this area suffered because of the left-wing extremism. The downswing in left-wing extremism has already now started in this region. In fact, it is going down very fast. People are seeing the fruits of joining the process of development. You find Maoists surrendering almost on a regular basis. The Gurupriya Bridge, which was not happening in 37 years, happened. So I think, again, the trajectory is same. But as I said before, that since this is an area which requires much more investment, this could be one thing which we could look forward in the budget.
Thank you, sir. We have Asha. Asha is the trustee and founder of Goa Livelihoods Forum, and they have been recently felicitated by the Honorable Prime Minister for their contribution to Atmanirbhar Bharat. And she has a question. Asha, could you please ask your question? I think it's a question.
Thank you very much, Charuji. Sir, I am Asha Venika from Goa. And we have heard so much, we hear so much about the governance in Odisha impacting the economic growth. Sir, I would like to know your thoughts on this.
No, so economic growth, I didn't harp on it much because I just mentioned one line by saying that the growth rate of Odisha is the average growth rate. I have the figures here, that the state economy has grown at 5.72% during 2012-13 to 2021. So over a period of 9 years. Now that is higher than the national average of 5%. So our growth rate has been higher, and this growth rate has been evenly distributed. I think that is more important. The inclusiveness is there. The growth has happened not just in the sectors which probably do not provide more jobs, but it has also that is in the big manufacturing sector. It has also happened in those areas where a lot of employment has been created. I gave you the example of the Mission Shakti. A lot of women labor force has been added onto this growth process, and their small delta contributions have actually contributed to this growth process. The growth has also happened because of the correct application of resources, reduction of corruption, improving the ease of doing business, that is using those single window clearances, making private investment to come in easily. Growth has also happened in the education sector. Many new educational institutions have been set up here. The startup ecosystem is looking good. The growth in agriculture, for example, is higher than the national average. The farmers' income in Odisha has already been doubled, and we are targeting to triple it actually. And the growth in agriculture, how it has happened, because the food production has record production every year. We are now the third largest supplier to the public distribution system. from a time when we were actually looking to the center to give us food supply to our people through the PDS. We are now actually surplus. So this evenly balanced growth is, I think, more important just than the absolute figure of 6% in the last 2-3 years. But if you take the average, it is more than the national average. In fact, if you look at the real growth of last year, it was, I think, about 10.1%. And during the COVID period itself, the FDI to Odisha was much more than the any state in the country. So the climate for investment has improved. And once that happens, not just public investment, but private investment, both together will spur this growth further and will change this tier. You know, Jharsuguda being developed, Jaipur being developed, Bhabanipatna being developed. These were tier 2 or tier 3 cities. Now, once they are Raurkela maybe tier 2, but it's definitely not Bhubaneswar. But once this spread takes place, each one of them becomes a growth center. And therefore, growth becomes even throughout the state. We have achieved this economic growth, I think, because of contribution, not just from manufacturing, also because of the skills that we have imparted to the human resources that are coming out of the schools and colleges. So it's a multi-sectoral approach. And that's why I said the multidimensional poverty index is a better indicator of how Odisha's growth has progressed compared to the other states and compared nationally.
Absolutely. Rosemary. Thank you, Ashwin. Rosemary is from Rwanda, and she's a much recognized social entrepreneur by Cornell University, and she has a point for you, sir. Rose, are you there?
Yes, I'm there.
Question, yes. Please go ahead, Rose.
Yeah, thank you so much. I don't know, I don't have much to talk. I'm from Rwanda. I really, I wanted to join this and have ideas. So I have a question that I feel like I want to ask. I want to know, what is Odisha's plan for rural entrepreneurship in terms of forthcoming budget?
Okay, so I spoke about this. The Mission Shakti program, which is basically organizing rural women into self-help groups and giving them the right kind of skills, capital, as well as committed market linkages to build on their, or to create wealth in that particular self-help group, which will eventually lead to the livelihood support for their entire family. That's one aspect, which is the livelihood aspect. But this is the route which we are taking to convert some of these self-help groups who have acquired the necessary skills and the heft to negotiate with the market to be converted into micro enterprises or medium enterprises. For that, you would, let's say, a self-help group which is probably interested in converting what we call in our Odisha dal into a processed kind of a dal, packaging it and then selling it in the market. Now, we have made a, Odisha is the first state we introduced the millets into the public distribution system. Now, the world has recognized it and it has become the, in fact, we just celebrated the International Year of the Millets. 2023 is the year of the millets. This has come actually from our state. Now, most of the rural women in the tribal areas, they actually grow millets, survive on millets. But once we now recognize them, buy that particular millet, gets into our PDS, gets into our normal food chain, then it creates entrepreneurial abilities for them. Now, if you look at the unique weaving patterns that Odisha weavers produce, which are again women, largely women, largely women in the labor force, which produces this. You would be happy to know that once we have now linked them to the market through the e-commerce platforms, they are now able to negotiate. They have developed the capacity to take orders from abroad, manufacture these saris, Indian saris and or whatever products they want, and then sell it. It will take some time because this has just happened. But the initiative to give entrepreneurial skill to them to graduate in the value chain from a self-help group to a micro and a medium enterprise is already taking place. Government is very cognizant of it. And that's what I said, I foresee in the budget a further push in this direction.
Thank you, Dr. Patnaik. In fact, we have a couple of more questions only before we wrap up. So Abhilash is again from Rwanda, successful entrepreneur, young entrepreneur, engineer MBA, and he's chosen Africa to be his workplace. He's worked in Tanzania and now in Rwanda. So Abhilash, you have, I see your hand raised for a long time.
Yeah, hi, good afternoon all. I would start with a praise to Lord Jagannath from where I belong, from the state of Odisha. Like Mr. Charu mentioned, I have been here in the eastern part of Africa since almost a decade. I came here as a consultant for some mining companies from Odisha who wanted to upgrade themselves in the value chain of mining system. So that brought me here, but I never went back. I liked the place and it is very similar to where I come from in a way. So, sir, with your kind permission, I had one question that was regarding pertaining to the discussion that we are having. How would increase in capital outlay reduce the, help in poverty reduction in our state, Odisha? Will it, I don't want to sound cynical, but will it actually, will it hit its mark? Like it will help in reduction of poverty in our state?
Okay, so capital, this is a theoretical question as well, because capital expenditure always results in a huge multiplier effect. And very simplistically, let's say if a bridge is being constructed or a road is being constructed, then the people who would be engaged there will be several people who will be engaged. So those who will be at managerial positions, then there will be a huge number who would earn wage employment from them. From this particular project. Now, this wage which comes to them as an income will further result in increasing the consumption expenditure, and therefore the virtuous cycle will continue. Now, when income comes, then a part of it they would spend towards education, a part of it they'll give towards health. In Odisha, I forgot to mention that Odisha currently is the only state in India which has a universal healthcare system. That is, no one pays. Everyone is taken care of in government hospitals and in private hospitals to a particular limit. This is what the government of India is trying to achieve through an insurance mechanism, but Odisha is achieving it through an assurance mechanism. And in an insurance mechanism, you would realize that there are issues relating to claim settlement, there are issues relating to maximum thing in hospital, outdoor, you have to be admitted. You can't be given insurance if you're not admitted. But all these things are taken care of by an assurance. Only the most developed countries in the world have such a scheme, often complete the National Health Survey in UK probably. Odisha has given this. But once you give things like this, and you also take care of food security, so this income which goes by way of wage, the out-of-pocket expenses from that really gets reduced. And if the out-of-pocket expenses gets reduced, then there is disposable income available with them to probably invest it in small projects later on. And again, a cycle starts. So I think capital expenditure is a very good way of reducing poverty. There are only two caveats there. If it gets delayed, then naturally the impact will get delayed. If it gets delayed, there will be cost of capital will increase, the capital itself will increase, and maybe the cost of capital also increases. So the benefit of the multiplier effect will be less, and the flow will not happen. But theoretically, this is how the capital expenditure increases, and therefore economists always say that spend on capital expenditure. The government of India is also doing it. The government of India is now also giving a 50,000 crore, I think, loan to all the states for doing capital expenditure. That was announced in the last budget. So that's the way forward. But these projects will have to be taken up in those areas which will create these jobs. So that's also important. Otherwise, poverty will not reduce in that area. So this is happening through roads, through bridges, like the hockey stadium that we built over there, like the airport that is going to come up. Once the airport comes up, there will be market complexes, there will be real estate development in industry. People will come to survey at least. Now they cannot even go and survey because connectivity is an issue. So I think CapEx is a very good way. And this CapEx need not necessarily be in hard infrastructure. When CapEx could be a tower of, a mobile tower could actually also be setting up the training institute for training people. So this is the way CapEx helps.
Thank you, Dr. Patnaik. I will take the last point from Mr. Patnaik, Mr. Purnachandra Patnaik.
Thank you, Charu sir. I'm Colonel staying in Delhi NCR. Sir, I'm proud of people like Mr. Amar Patnaik sir, Subrat Bachi sir, and of course our CM, who has been #1 CM in India. I'm proud of him. His transparency, his honesty, his simplicity in living, and the work and commitment he's doing. My point is that I'm going to give a couple of points which probably the people sitting in high chair, they really ignore, and I have seen it in grassroots level. If they can do away with this, the development of Odisha will leap much ahead. Now, complete India is developing, Odisha is developing. First point, how much the fiscal equations will work if you exclude the income coming from the mines. After all, mines are resources. Odisha is a rich mineral state. We are selling it. We are denying our future generations from that. That is number one. Secondly, corruption at the grassroots level. Like sir mentioned, hospital. CapEx there, okay, free. But how many people get it? You get admitted in KIMS or any private hospital, unless you are having a poverty card, BPL card, you don't get. And to get a BPL card for real poor people who is almost begging, he had to give bribe to the ward member. For getting my land. My father died at 92 during Kargil war, while fighting the Kargil war. Now I went to Khanpada Tahsildar and filed affidavit to transfer legal aid. 3 months. He telling the RI report says father has not died. I gave all sarpanch's signature, everything, but still here not, because I follow the principle, not bribing anyone. Depending things like this. I wanted to start a factory in aluminum park after my retirement. I almost arranged 25 crores for my friends. Couldn't do it because the land available, which have been purchased at 2 crores, is been 2 lakhs, is been sold at 70 lakhs. Outside is available at 18 lakhs. These are the things the government has to look into. For example, my place, which I fought for it, Continue has been given Nilamadhav Temple 100 crore development fund. Unless people like Amar sir or the somebody close Naveen Patnaik sees how much money actually spent on ground. On paper, 100 crores spent on development. But if it reaches only 1 crore reaches the ground level, it doesn't satisfy. Now coming to education, let's take the statistics of civil services, which sir is from. How many people are getting in 75 when I was studying Ravinsha College from Odisha? From each college, my college used to produce. And now how many are there in IAS, IPS, IRS? Total 17, 18. From 40, 50 earlier. Now, because of that generation of Amar sir, we are finding everywhere Oriya people. It is dying down. Standard of education on ground actually has gone down. People, students, youth are now known for smoking, drinking, and not studying. Later, take the example of Ravinsha and BJP college also. So people have to work on this level, sir. And normal laborer in villages, agricultural growth is there. But also, chunks of lands are lying idle because the cultivator son doesn't want to soil his hand. He's ready to take up a job as a peon for 10,000 rupees. I'm ready to offer 25,000 rupees, cultivate my land of 5 acres. Nobody comes up. So these are the points. If the government can look into it, Odisha will have, I'm proud of Odisha, I'm proud of Odisha, I'm treasurer of approach here. I can die for Odisha for anything, but these things have to be done. Thank you, sir.
Absolutely brilliant emotions there, and I respect these sentiments completely. All that I can say for addressing all these issues is that at some point of time, all of us also have to realize that government alone cannot do everything. We also have to do our own bit. Why is there a bribe taker? Because there is a bribe giver. And however hard, however well you improve, how do you improve systems? By using technology, reduce the human contact, transfer the money through, let's say, DBT, process things electronically, faceless manner. All these things are happening. But at some stage, whenever there is a bribe giver and there is a bribe taker, that is how that entire transaction takes place. Unlike you must be one of the very few who idolizes the principles of the principles of doing everything on your own and in a straightforward, transparent manner. Even though our goal is transparency, we need the support of the people. There are larger issues involved there, which I cannot discuss here, and it goes much beyond Odisha. The state funding of elections, many issues are there. But I think we also have to do our bit. We, just as you said here, for example, that people are not going to do agriculture because they don't see any prospect in it. That is because agro-processing is not happening. So they have to see that it is more remunerative. People are also not going to be in the trade of weaving or crafts because they don't see it as remunerative. They think that government job. But we all know that government cannot provide jobs. This is not there anywhere in any developed world. So if we have to finally go to a stage in which we are all the developed state, we will have to be entrepreneurs ourselves, create wealth ourselves. Now, that stage can happen only if you are taking care of your basic needs of food, shelter, and clothing. So when we have schemes like BSY, when you have schemes like food security, National Food Security, or the State Food Security Act, whenever you have schemes like free education, girl education till a particular year, whenever you have things like all that basically is given schemes that are oriented towards reducing the out-of-pocket expenditure of a family. It is only then he will start becoming aspirational and look for opportunities and try to create jobs himself. So I think we in Odisha are at a development process where this basic needs of people over this period of 20 years have been met. I said this in my earlier presentation, that these are getting increasingly met, and therefore people are becoming aspirational and trying to do this. Now, why will the government, I'm not saying government shouldn't do it, but why will the government alone do agro-processing plants? Why can't a new innovation take place in, let us say, some kind of a processing and packaging, in which case he will become a unicorn in agriculture. So this new transformation will come eventually with the kind of work that our government has done under the able guidance of our Chief Minister Amar Patnaik, whose honesty, integrity, cleanliness, clarity of purpose and dedication to the people of Odisha is unmatched, unquestioned by.
Yes.
If you do that, I think we will reach a stage in which we will be doing that, in which we will not leave agriculture, but we'll add value to agriculture and become an entrepreneur. We will not leave weaving, but we will add value to weaving and become a better entrepreneur and sell more brands and with new designs abroad and probably get more money for ourselves and also the state. Now, all of us have to make a contribution here, who are, let's say, particularly diaspora, who are outside. Whenever I go out, I went to the German embassy the other day, Indian embassy in Germany. I was in Berlin. I was telling some diaspora people had come. They do their small bits. Now, I think we were at a stage earlier, not just Odisha, India as a whole, where we were looking up to government for everything. That phase is slowly reducing, but it is not completely gone. When we reach that particular stage, then I'm sure people will realize that it is better to earn, as you say, 25,000 rupees to till the land rather than do a 10,000 rupees of peon. Anyway, the attraction from government jobs is reduced because of the removal of pension from 2004. But you see, political processes are rising to even give it back. And then naturally, someone will be more attracted towards the government job because it is giving you a pension. So all of us have to, be creators of ideas. Ideas ultimately make a nation. I have been in Principal AG Kerala. I call it as the idea state. It has no resources, there is nothing, but it is an idea state. If US is where it is because of innovation. It is because of ideas. So this is where we must contribute. You might say that we give ideas, no one listens to us. That also happens because this is a stage in which these things are getting formed. But at some generation make this contribution where we sacrifice more and give more to society so that the future generation will sacrifice less but get more. I think that is the stage in which we are there. I strongly and completely empathize with your sentiments. I personally also share some of those sentiments. As corruption is concerned, the episodic corruption will be there, is there. We have various indices. But you go to any state, I have worked in many states, corruption in Odisha is really, really less. And the quantum is also very less. So, but then one is not going to be happy about it. Corruption is not just a question of bribing money. It slows down the project. It disincentivizes people like you who would probably be interested in setting up something. It increases the cost of capital. So we have to nip it in the bud. But for that, we as a society has to change ourselves. And many other processes have to change. The election system has to change. The process of, maybe the process of fixed jobs should change. That is, fixed tenure jobs should change. I'm sure if it becomes a contractual job where you know that.
I feel if the government holds the collectors responsible for corruption at the Tahsil level, block level, then it will be removed, sir.
That's right. So we are trying to do this most Sarkar program. You are aware of that. Where now the CM directly takes views of 10 people, the secretary takes another 10 people, minister takes another. So on a day, I think with the data, we come out with the data, I think just last week, where we find out that a person who had gone to a Tahsil, a person who had gone to a Thana, there are three places. Person go to a Thana, go to a Tahsil, and go to a CDMO's office or a hospital. What is the kind of treatment he is getting? This is an indirect, this is nowhere again there. Using technology, getting a direct feedback from the people as to what is the service that they got against the delivery that was promised, includes the corruption itself. I am not naming, you would be, I can only tell you that based on these feedbacks only, highest level officers, action has been taken against highest level officers. So there's 150 odd people who have been given compulsory retirement and all this. Many of these have been sourced from the feedback received from these people directly. It will take time to permeate because India is a big country, Odisha is a big country. But I think the trajectory is there. We must all contribute to make this trajectory stronger and faster. And then it will become better.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Parmesh sits on our board. He's from IIT Delhi. And Parmesh, your question or your point will be the last point before we wrap up. It has been so interesting, Dr. Patnaik, that probably we have had questions from all over the globe. So literally. So Parmesh, yes, please go ahead.
Yeah, hope I am audible.
Absolutely.
Yeah, good evening, sir. And I had an opportunity to, see you in the Odisha, that Foundation Day, other day in the Delhi, Corporate Foundation Day. And yes, the way you encourage, you don't look like a politician. These days, it's like, I am from Bihar. And when I came to IIT Delhi, people used to call me, you don't seem to be a Bihari, something like that, and I used to say, I don't know whether I should be happy. Similarly, so when I made this statement to you, you don't look like a politician. I know it's a similar kind of dilemma for you, isn't it? So whether you should be happy or not happy. But that's a stage, you are in that kind of, the anchorship. Whenever you get, the way you talk to people or communicate, You are very, very transparent. And, coming from IIT, that the kind of, feeling we have. I see, that Odisha has a very unique, position right now. And that's the reason, I thought, I will join. At some, 100 years back, we were all part of the same state, isn't it? So we were one state. So, and if you look at today, that, some people have joined from Berlin, some, from Rwanda, and, and they are talking about, they have somewhere, relations with somehow the other, they are connected. So when you stress, that government should not be the only reason of hope, I really salute that, that this need to be communicated. And why this is happening, look at Odisha, that at one level you are talking about growth, 10% and everything. And at the same point of time, you have the oldest tribes of the, humanity, isn't it? So right from oldest tribe to, the 10% growth. So they are what we feel, personally, and I have discussed with Charu a lot on that, that, the time has come that we have to go beyond this food, shelter, and all this stuff. And that is, is identity. So we have to create identity for people. When we say, about, women, when we say empowerment, I see when people talk about, why, how to, give more power, the family, patriarchy, matriarchy. But what, we have realized is, and that, why I'm sharing this with you, because I see a hope there, in your state, I see a hope that you will talk about it. Okay. So where I see that can we, somehow do something where the identity of people is kept forever. And that, I will give a simple example. This G20 right now, the line which says, one world, one family, isn't it? That is what, Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. But the way humanity is living is, the Charvak philosophy, Yavat Jivet, Yavat Jivet, Sukham Jivet, Rinam Kirtva, Ghritam Pivet. People are in the West are just thinking about and exploiting the mining resources. And that's the reason, Odisha is feeling that, isn't it? And there, if people has to be communicated that we are all connected. And the example is today that, I come from a different place, a lot of people from different parts of the world, and they are trying to, listen to you, what you are trying to do, because we feel, that somewhere, there is a ray of hope. So my, point is, that what you have suggested, can we do something, where the identity of people is, there forever, something like that. So because this social world, when we, when I passed out from IIT in 95, when I was in final year, I had heard of email ID. And you just imagine I was in IIT Delhi. So, of course, I had that, I was in that, privileged lot that who can actually hear about it, right? So, and then we thought, why do we require it? We don't require it, isn't it? My life is going normally. And then today, if you see, everyone has that, isn't it? So similarly, I'm saying is, this the social media, and I've seen that, you have part, you have headed the social media, everything is like back of your palm. How to use this, how to reconnect the world to so that, they will start understanding for tomorrow. As you said, that the future generation, nobody's thinking that. If we start feeling that, this is one life that I will live for myself, people has to be clear, no boss in your life. There is something beyond your family, your friends, your mother, your sister. That concept has to go. So I feel, sir, that somewhere the identity thing, right from, the oldest tribes of Koraput, to the people who are, global citizen of Odisha, how that connect has to be there. So this is what, I thought we should be considered for a budget.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I mean, in fact, I can end it by saying that Odisha will be the ray of hope for India. And Odisha will show the light. Naveen Patnaik will be the role model for everyone who would like to follow. You wouldn't believe when I go in these, one of the, political leaders, an MP of a particular state, told me, why don't you loan Naveen Patnaik to us for a few years so that we will actually change our thing. I'm honestly saying this. So the future will be shown by this identity. When we go to the world, it will be the identity of India. Indians as an identity. And within the states, each of the states, we should be in a position to say that, proud to say that you are an Oriya or you are a Bihari. But of course, you are an Indian first, and then than a state representing a state. Since you are from Bihar and people which were called the Bimaru states, which continue to remain that way, I think that this identity, establishing this identity based on achievements, not just achievements of a few people, but achievements of the community as a whole, the state as a whole, is going to concretize this particular identity. And I agree that when we go to the world, then you should not be diffident of your identity. I know. Again, I'm not naming. I know in Rome, a group of people who speak a language which some part in India also speaks. They initially introduced to me as Indian. They didn't want to take their country's name. Now, that identity, that is because of inferiority complex. And that has happened because they have not achieved. Now, Odisha is achieving, other states are also achieving. All of us have to work together to make India achieve. It is achieving, it is trying to occupy its preeminent position that it used to occupy, in fact, at one point of time. And the time is now. The time is now to the states to support the center, the centers to support the states. There should be less politics on growth. There should be less politics on overall development, inclusive development. I think that is where the stock of people's character and behavior matters. And that's why I'd said all of us also have to contribute. All of us have to be transformational agents. With this, I will end. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Patnaik. In fact, people have been talking about a customary vote of thanks and all of that. We don't have to do that to this kind of a session because it's been completely engrossing. Not only that, we have become greedy. We would like to take your time and meet you in person and pick your brains and also take work from you, all of us, and see how best we can do this together under your leadership. We are grateful for this wonderful, transparent, honest, candid discussion that we had today. And you can sense that from the questions and suggestions and points people have shared from all across the globe, literally. Thank you so much. And we'll again end this with Om Jagannath and Jai Jagannath.
Well, thank you so much. I'll end this by Bande Utkal Janani. But before ending, I would say that you could actually reach out to me in my social media. I'm active there. I'm number 4 Odisha. That's my Twitter. That's my Facebook. That's my email ID as well. Amar number 4 is at gmail.com. So, I will get ideas from you, will share ideas. I'll probably get some of this and try to pass it on to the right people here who can probably benefit from this process. As I said, we all have to contribute. Sometimes we say people should follow. No, I don't think so. Whatever the father says, the children don't follow, and whatever the children say, father doesn't agree. But even if one is accepted, it could be the game changer for a particular sector. So let those ideas start floating in. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks everyone, all of us who have participated. Thank you so much.
Namaste.